And welcome everybody to the Untold History Channel. My name is Ron Partain, and today is the 20th of October. I'm going to be uploading the interview that I did with Dr. Jim Willie here shortly. Just want to make you guys aware of a couple of quick things. Number one, I haven't taken on a sponsor, but I just want to. I've been told by a lot of people that I need to make everybody aware of kind of what I do during my day job. I'm involved in basically what I do is I do EDTA topical chelation. A lot of you guys may or may not be aware of this. It is the EDTA has been shown, it's been found in one of the patents by Karen Kingston to neutralize the hydrogel, which is the nasty stuff that's in the vaccine. So anyway, I'm just going to play a real quick 30-second video about my product, and then we're going to jump right into the video with Dr. Jim Willie, and there's going to be links in the description for how you can support the channel if you so choose. So with that, enjoy your evening.
Lead is poisonous. It's in our air, food, water, and everyone's affected. Unfortunately, humans don't have an adequate mechanism to remove lead. Calcium disodium EDTA chelation is the most effective process to remove lead in humans. Normally, it's considered expensive, time-consuming, and inconvenient. Topical EDTA chelation cream is a non-invasive, effective, and affordable way to remove lead, and it's safe for all ages. Learn more today. Live a better life tomorrow.
And welcome back to the Untold History Channel. My name is Ron Partain. Today is the 20th of October, 2023, and I am joined by one of my most favorite guests of all time, Dr. Heavy on the doctor.
Doctor, tell me the news. I got a bad case. I love it. I'm
exactly.
sorry.
And so just and just to stave off the detractors, so make the statement ahead of time. Jim and I like to engage in discussion. This is not an interview. This is a discussion between two old friends, and we like to bounce things off of people. So we like to bounce things off of each other. So you guys just happen to be the beneficiary of a discussion between two people who are talking about events, and so you're going to hear me insert things, and you're going to hear Jim insert things. It's not going to be all Jim. So,
and I do not like to carry 90% of the load. I do not like it. Okay.
So just FYI, that's so if you're here to hear Jim, give 100% of the dialogue, you're in the wrong spot. So that's
okay.
That said, Jim,
here we go.
Let's do it, man. How's it going? What do you want to start with today?
I want to start with something that I called the ugly cat getting out of the bag.
Okay.
For the first time, I'm sorry, I gotta say this. This is about the first time in my adult life I have seen widespread criticism of Israel, of their leadership, and even of their military, without people like a knee-jerk being accused of being anti-Semitic, which I believe is a very overused argument and weapon.
I'm going to share this screen here, Jimbo, because I think that goes to what you're talking about. You can see, can you see the screen there that I shared?
Yeah.
So if this is from an October 12th, 13th poll, where the 65-year-old, 81% are saying yes, they support Israel, basically carte blanche. The younger the generations, or the younger the people, the less likely they are to support Israel. And I think that is bearing its
support is Israel in its military response to Hamas.
Mm-hmm.
And what's not in there, Ron, is for that 27%, what is it that prevents them from believing that it's justified? And for me, I'm going to tell what I've been reading, the videos I've been seeing from the Israeli Defense Force, the IDF, former members, current members, leaked testimony that's getting on the social networks, certain articles that are from respected websites that I've been following for quite a long time, many years, and that is that the Israeli military and the top political leadership called for an active stand down to let this happen.
Yep.
And it is all over the place. This is an ugly cat out of the bag. It is no longer a situation where, hey, wait a minute, you're criticizing Israel, you're anti-Semitic. You're a bad guy, you're anti-Semitic, you're a racist, you're anti-Semitic. Okay, I am so tired of that. I've been dealing with that pretty much my entire adult life. I grew up in a Jewish neighborhood in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. It was called Squirrel Hill. And it had an attack 5 years ago at the Tree of Life synagogue and center. It was a community center. And this is going to be very weird for people to hear, but I was a member of their YNMHA. I swam there. It's like the Hebrew version of YMCA. I was a swimmer there. I did weightlifting there. I had my buddy Jeff W. We got together, had a meal afterwards. I grew up in a Jewish neighborhood, and I marveled by the time I was in high school and college that, wait a minute, why can't you call like a Jewish guy an asshole? If he's an asshole, call him an asshole. And if, on the other side, if Hutchison and what's another good Dodworth,
you know, I'm going to share this with you.
If they're an asshole, you're not like anti-Christian. You're identifying an asshole. Okay, I'm so tired of this, and now we're getting. Oh gosh, there it is, right in the center. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, and I used to go to the Homewood Cemetery to catch in a wagon when I was a boy. I'd go into Homewood Cemetery and come back with 500 Buckeyes.
Yeah.
And you know, maybe it was a presage that I was going to go to Ohio State University, but I didn't think of it at that time. And Shenley Park, that's where Carnegie Mellon is, right on the edge, on the northern side. Okay.
Where is it? This right in here?
Shenley Park. It's a very big part. It has a golf course. Okay, on the upper end. Yeah. Okay. Where you see the network with the X's.
Carnegie Mellon.
There it is. There it
right
is.
Here,
yeah.
Right.
Okay. So that's where I went to graduate school, and that's not a Jewish institution. No, not at all. It has a regular representation in the various departments. In my department for statistics, I think we had 3 Jewish guys. There was 1 woman and about 10 men, and 3 of them were Jewish. It wasn't overwhelmingly Jewish at all. No, you got to go to Syracuse if you want that, or Boston University. Okay, anyway, look.
Where was the synagogue that was attacked?
In Squirrel Hill.
Okay.
In Squirrel Hill South, really.
Well, I'm not going to go hunting for it.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I'm not going to go hunting for
it. Wilkins was Wilkins was where I used to throw snowballs at the car traffic.
Did I bring?
Oh, some wonderful memories because I was good. Anyway, we used to have. I know we're getting off track, but we're just having fun. We're 2 guys. We used to have a contest, and it was me, and it was Teddy, and who was not Jewish, and then it was Johnny H, and he was Jewish, and Abramovitz, and he was Jewish, and Hutch, and he was not Jewish. Okay, you know, I grew up in a Jewish neighborhood, and we hung out. We had softball, we played baseball, we played football, we threw snowballs at cars, and here was the contest, and I did it all the time. Hey, there's a bus coming. That's a big target. You lead it, and you hit it in advance. You broadside it, and then you quickly, we got 3 snowballs ready, by the way, and then you hit in the distance from the back end. You hit it 3 times, you get a gold star.
Nice.
I did it all the time. It was a lot of fun. It was about a 25-yard toss.
This is before you had cell phones and
Yeah,
and
this is
so
30 years
this is
before
when you
cell
actually had to
phones.
make your own fun and games because
Oh, and snow battles were a lot of fun, and we did other things. We used to make like a like a toboggan off my dad's
mhm.
garage roof. So you have to pack the snow about 7 or 8 feet high, and then you make a curve. So you get it, you climb a ladder, you get onto the top of the roof, a garage roof, not real high, like 15 feet. And you just slide your little butt down and do the curl, and it's just a lot of fun. You do roller coasters and somersault, and then you catch someone unaware, you wash his face out with snow, and you run like hell. This is what you do. I got to tell you something. There was a guy, Johnny H., and he had a younger sister, and I was a bad boy. I used to grab her, and she was a Jewish girl. And
You grab her by the pee.
I grabbed her by her front units.
Yes, grabbed her by the pee.
I grabbed her, and I ran. And her father, sat me down. It was funny. And he said, "Come on, Jimmy, you can't do that. You can't do that. Not in this society." Okay. So I grabbed the units on a Jewish girl. And I had a crush on a different Jewish girl, and she had no time for me. That's okay. She went after Jeff R., who was not a Jewish guy. Okay, we were a very mixed, and I grew up with no prejudices at all. I didn't care where you came from. If you were an asshole, I called you an asshole.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a good guy, I called you a good guy. I went over on Friday evenings, though, and made a pest of myself and said, "Hey, where's the gefilte fish? Come on."
Jim, you say something that's very interesting, because I think I truly believe that in our day and age that times haven't really changed. I mean, the only thing that creates racism or prejudices is society's desire to provoke that in people. But when you've got kids that are growing up with each other, they don't see it. Because
he's just a guy.
He's just a guy. People.
And he's good at softball, so I want him on my team.
Exactly.
That's how it works.
And that's how it works today.
But Ron, at the top of Squirrel Hill, where it was not like, in my neighborhood, it was about 25-30% Jewish.
Mm-hmm.
But on the top of Squirrel Hill, it was like 60-80% Jewish. And there was racism, and there was mockery of like, the Hasids who had the curly sideburns.
Mm-hmm.
And they wore a prayer shawl on Saturday night heading to temple. And I saw that. I was on my bike and I'm riding around. I go, "Look at that. It looks kind of funny, but hey, he is what he is, whatever." And I move on, and I don't make fun. It is what it is. Right. My gosh. Okay, how many weird things are in the Catholic Church? Come on.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. Let's enough of the preliminaries. The cat is out of the bag. There is now widespread criticism. There is widespread actual reports coming from inside the Israeli military that a group guarding the border was forcibly removed.
Mm-hmm.
And when they asked what the hell's going on, they said, "Follow the orders. Your orders are to vacate." Okay, this is getting out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there's much, much more to this. In the last 2 days alone, I've read a couple of different articles about Netanyahu. Benjamin, his nickname is Bibi. Okay, Netanyahu, Bibi, is on record in the early 1990s for creating Hamas.
Mm-hmm.
They created Hamas.
Yeah,
and when I saw the article, I thought, wow, I got to read on. What are the details? And here's what it was. They figured that the Palestinians needed an insider influence, but on a radical side, so that if there were the moderates and the radicals, that the Israeli government could control the entire group by having control of the Hamas radicals, because they would be louder with their voices. That's what it is. And there's more. Langley is well known to have supplied Hamas in Syria, where we got our butts handed to us, where on display was the Russian S defensive missiles.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it is widely known that Iran, Persia supplies Hezbollah, and Israel and Langley supply Hamas. Okay, these are harsh realities that people had better get up to speed with.
Well, it's right here.
It's all over the press in the last 20 years. All over.
This right here.
Okay.
For years, Netanyahu propped up Hamas. Now it's blowing up in our faces. The premier is treating the terror group as a partner at the expense of Abbas and the Palestinian state.
Okay, now look at that name, Schneider.
Yeah.
That probably is a Jewish woman talking about the dissension and revealing things within the Israeli government.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know how deep I want to get into this, but I want to mention that, gosh, there are so many sides to this that I took notes and I got 10 points, but I don't know if I want to touch them all with depth. But let it be said that about 8 or 10 months ago, the Israeli government and the military donated a lot of weapons to Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a lot of questions like, what's that all about? What about your own defenses? Oh, don't worry, we're well supplied. And I believe that Hamas got the weapons from Ukraine. Some. Okay, this was not an all-around assault, national level on a 1,000-mile front. This was an isolated attack on like a 30-mile border. And there was an IDF woman. She said, look, I retired quite a few years ago, but I can tell you for a fact that not a grain of rice crosses the border without the Israeli Defense Fund knowing about it. There's no such thing as their guard being down without their guard being told to get down. All right, so the black ugly cat is out of the bag, and I did not do it.
No, I'm sorry to be sharing so many screens today, but I mean, I think it's important because this just confirms what you're talking about. Pentagon sends U.S. arms stored in Israel to Ukraine. This is from the New York Times.
We don't have information that Hamas got the weapons from Ukraine. That is my belief, and I think in time that information will come out. That is my belief.
Mm-hmm.
Let's call it a postulate. I'm awaiting confirmation to see if it sticks on the wall, as I like to say.
And by the way,
and also there are $80 billion worth of war material in Afghanistan. You think some of it found its way to Hamas?
1,000%.
Okay.
By the way, guys, all the links that I've been doing this, I'm actually going to put this in the show notes so that you guys can see them for yourself. So just FYI, I'm not going to. All
right. I believe this was an inside job.
Agreed.
In order to justify an attack on Gaza.
Agreed.
The rabbis in Israel are now on record as saying extermination would be a good thing of the Arabs, including their children. The Israeli military is on record as having said genocide will not be a military tribunal issue.
Mm-hmm.
We are setting up a genocide, and I stand back. I don't get involved in the emotional side. I really don't have a dog in this fight. I just have a lot of friends. And I never even mentioned much about my college times. In Ohio, I only had 1 or 2 Jewish friends. One of them turned out to be my favorite roommate out of about four guys. In graduate school, I had a rival who was Jewish. I had a friend and buddy who was Jewish. I had 2 professors who were Jewish out of about 8. Big deal. That's a mix. Who cares? That's okay. I don't have a dog in this fight regarding Israel. It's not like I can say, well, my uncle died over there. He was ambushed and killed. No, I don't have any dog in this fight. There's nothing. So what I do, Ron, is I step back and say, let's take a look at the economic financial, and let's just say geopolitical angles that have a monetary side to them. Well, the oil price is going up. Saudi is threatening an embargo again after 1973. By the way, I was 21 years old then, just graduated from college. I was a year early, and it interfered with a number of things I was doing. Okay, so the Saudis are threatening an embargo for any nation that supports Israel on what they call the genocide. Okay, they're calling it genocide. I'm reporting what they're calling it. The cat is out of the bag.
Mm-hmm.
Now, who would benefit from a rising oil price? Well, the Arabs would,
Yep.
but I don't know that the Arabs had a great deal of funding or support for Hamas. I think it was a Langley and Rockefeller job. Rockefellers are looking to liquidate a large body of petrodollar derivatives, which can become profitable if the oil price goes up some more.
You're not getting
and even without derivatives, Ron, the Rockefeller complex benefits from a higher oil price across the board. Petrochemicals, oil, gas, whatever, diesel. And you know, the Rockefellers are also blowing up some of their own installations for diesel production with help from Langley. Okay, this is a grand sabotage event. All right, so oil is just one thing. Now, move on. There's another angle to this having to do with finance, and that is the BRICS. The BRICS were having a love fest, and there was no outside interference. There was no exogenous factor. So Persia, I like to call Persia more than Iran. They like Persia.
Well, they are Persia.
Persia and Saudi were making nice.
Mm-hmm. MBS was very instrumental in that.
Who was?
MBS, Mohammed bin Salman.
Mohammed bin Salman. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Persians were reopening their embassy in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia.
Mm-hmm.
And now Saudi is talking about an embargo because of the genocide of the Arabs, and Persia is being accused of funding Hamas. And it's just my belief. I don't think they were funding Hamas.
I agree.
There are a lot of people, including a couple of my own colleagues, who said, Jim, they must have. I said, well, why do you not think it's Langley funding it? Well, right. I hadn't thought about that. All right, well, then start thinking about that. I actually am of a different opinion. I think differently from a lot of people, and I don't mean this in an arrogant way, but a lot of my unusual forecasts are shown to be correct in the following months.
Well, Jim, I love you so much.
I believe Hamas got their weapons without money changing hands.
I agree.
I think they got Afghan weapons. They got their own. They got Ukrainian weapons that were from Israel. Okay, you know, if Israel made the weapons available to Hamas, they might have gotten caught. But if they send it by way of Ukraine, it's harder to catch. So they took a long road and did a U-turn to come back to Hamas. That's what I believe. Well, and I'm just waiting. I'm just waiting for the made in Israel rockets.
Can I interject something in there? Well, people need to stop thinking about this from the terms from the terms of Israel and Israeli, and start thinking about this in terms of Zionists. It's not Israel as much as it is Zionists. And you don't necessarily need to be Israeli to be a Zionist. And, you go back and you look at the Pike-Mazzini letter. I mean, this is the Pike-Mazzini letter coming to fruition right in front of our very eyes.
That's one of my points. In fact, that's number 9.
I actually have the Pike-Mazzini letter up right now, ready to go. I mean, ready to.
Can I make a request that?
Sure.
Okay, this is hard to describe, Ron, but part of the death threats that I've received are over discussions of Zionism, and I'm telling you very, very clearly that if that theme is something you run with, you'll be putting a target on your back and the neck.
Mm.
Okay. I'm telling you, let others do it. I don't wish to
Okay.
do it.
That's
I'd
fine.
rather talk about Albert Pike without the Z.
Okay.
Okay. There is a movement. There is a, what do you call it? Like a century initiative, a 1 century long initiative. And he came out before in about 1910. I don't know the exact date, but he talked about 3 world wars.
I think the Pike Mazzini letter was back in the early, I was like in the 1870s.
Wow. Okay. I thought it was about 1905, 1910.
No, it was
All right, so
it was 1871. The Pike Mazzini letter was August 15th, 1871.
wow. Okay. Well, that's good to know because I don't like to embarrass myself needlessly. He talked about 3 world wars, and the first one, I don't have all the facts, but it was basically remove the monarchies and get things aligned here.
Well,
And then the second.
World War One, and I don't mean to cut you off, Jim. I really
Go
don't.
ahead.
But World War One was essentially about you can narrow everything down to World War One to getting to basically establishing the presence of Palestine for the Zionists. That's what it was designed to do. World War One was specifically designed to begin the process of making that little sliver of land in the Eastern Mediterranean for the people of
the Israeli nation state.
Israeli nation. That was it.
I get it. Now, my understanding, remember, I leave that Z element out.
Mm-hmm.
And I look for other very relevant factors. And I believe there's not just one motive for World War I. It was to limit the Turkish Muslim influence that had begun to seep into the Austro-Hungarian Empire.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Hungary was starting to look a bit Muslim. And they've got a lot of Muslim, what do you call them, spires, church, mosques in Budapest, and the Islamics call it our wonderful Buddha. That's Budapest. Okay, that got cut off. And World War II, I believe, was to isolate Russia and make sure that it never joined up with Germany, making damn sure that a lot of killing took place between Russian and German. And now that still exists. But let's get to where it's really relevant now. The Pike argument is to get a war going against Islam. Mm-hmm. And your Z side is the other side in opposition to Islam. And the purpose, according to Pike, is to draw support from all the different nations in the West, draw support, and exhaust their resources, exhaust their spirit, exhaust their nation, so that after the Third World War, there's really no energy left except for that special elite. I call them the Uber Lords. That's my little nickname for them. And, you can put your label on it if you wish, but I have my little slang name of the Uber Lords that keeps me safe and keeps me off my back, because I had 2 death threats in 2006 and they shook me up. They shook me up. I was not an old guy at that time. Right now I'm kind of, I'm on the edge of being an old man. But back then, it was 2006. I was 54 years old and still quite vibrant and very active. And I was, running 2 or 3 times a week, a couple miles, 3 miles, and cycling and occasionally swimming a mile. I was very active and I was not a scaredy cat type. And it shook me up. I was trembling the entire day when I was in Munich for that death threat. And it was directly related to the group that I do not want to talk from the last letter of the alphabet. I sometimes go so far as to call it that country on the southeast corner of the Mediterranean, because I don't even want to mention that name either.
I know.
And I use misspellings for the religion, you know, the three-letter word beginning with the J. I don't use those names, the Z, the Izzy, and the J. I don't use them. I don't want anybody on my back. And I've got to tell you a quick one. I got accused by James Kunstler of being anti-Semitic back in 2016, and we went at it. I said, what the fuck are you talking about? Who do you think you are? I grew up with Jews. I went to school with Jews. My first sweetheart was a Jew. Who the hell are you to tell me that my criticism of bankers is anti-Semitic? If you haven't gathered in all your years of wise travels that a lot of Wall Street bankers are Jewish, then you're an idiot. And I got into it with them. And after about 2 weeks, he backed off and said, Jim, I'm going to have to retract what I said. I think you're right. I think you're level-headed. I think you're fair-minded. You call a spade, and there are a number of bankers who are of that persuasion and religion. And that's just the way it is. I said, look, they might not go to synagogues, James. You can't even prove that they practice in a temple. You can't tell me that their kids go to temple. You can't tell me anything. I doubt their kids even speak Hebrew. They're Z-boys.
Jim, are you familiar with Shulamit Aloni?
I couldn't even begin to understand what you just said.
All right, I'm gonna share my.
What is that? Is that a person, a place, or a thing?
She's a former member of the Knesset, and she appeared on Democracy Now! In the early 1990s. And I'm going to share this because this is important. This is important to hear, because this will give a lot of context to what you just talked about. Take a quick listen to this. This is really important.
Often when there is dissent expressed in the United States against policies of the Israeli government, people here are called anti-Semitic. What is your response to that as an Israeli Jew?
Well, it's a trick. We always use it. When from Europe somebody is criticizing Israel, then we bring up the Holocaust. When in this country people are criticizing Israel, then they are anti-Semitic. And the organization is strong and has a lot of money, and the ties between Israel and the American Jewish establishment are very strong, and they are strong in this country. As you know, they have power, which it's okay. They are talented people, and they have power, money, and media, and other things. And their attitude is Israel, my country, right or wrong, the identification. And they are not ready to hear criticism. And it's very easy to blame people who criticize certain acts of the Israeli government as anti-Semitics, and to bring up the Holocaust and the suffering of the Jewish people, and that justify everything we do to the Palestinians.
Often when there is...
so basically what she was saying there is
a trick.
It's a trick that they use. It's a trick.
It's a defensive, deceptive, deceitful trick and defense. I don't like it. I've been on the receiving end of it only a couple times in my life, and I don't back down. And I got to tell you, with James Kunstler, I didn't even know he was Jewish. I told him I loved his work. I especially like the name of his, the Cluster, F-U-C-K, Cluster F Nation. And that argument lasted over 10 days. Okay, here we go again, day 4. Here we go again, day 5. I said, look, James, I'm not going to handle this. I'm not going to let it go. You're out of line. You know it. I know it. And we know what some of these bankers are, and I don't believe they go to temple.
Mm-hmm. They do
Okay,
not.
that's the Z definition.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I have been saying for quite a long time, I lost that Jeff W. friend that I did weightlifting with because
Mm-hmm.
he said, Jim, give me a free subscription. I said, sure, but kind of heavy stuff, Jeff. And he said, that's okay. I'll read a little bit here and there. He read a special report that I wrote in 2008 about the Khazarians. And he said, Jim, you're criticizing Rothschild and all these people. You're anti-Semitic. It's the same shit.
Mm-hmm.
I said, no, Jeff, you don't understand. The Khazarians are not Jewish. They're not practicing Jews. They don't go to the temple. They're Satanists who decided to hide in the synagogue and to fool people like you.
That's right.
And he said, Jim, you're an asshole. I don't want to deal with you anymore. I thought you were my friend. You're just another anti-Semitic pig. Okay. I said, I couldn't shake that with him. I tried for 2 or 3 days, and he's a big, strong fellow, weightlifter, and he's got some weird sides to him. He was a nice friend for a couple of years. Anyway.
Do you and I'm asking you this question not because I'm trying to put you on the spot. I'm curious if you know. Do you know what what the physical definition is of how you are a Semite? What qualifies you to be a Semite? Do you know what that is derived from?
I am learning more and more, but it's something
it's very simple.
It's something that I just don't like getting into.
Okay, well, I mean, it's not that big of a deal because what it is
to me it is.
Well, Noah had 3 sons: Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Okay. Shem is the line of Abraham, and through Abraham through Hagar you got the Arabs, and through Isaac is where the Jews came from. Because so in order to be a Semite, you have to be descended from Shem. Well, the Khazarians, and ironically, I'm going to be actually having Mike Harris, who's the one who came up with the term Khazarian Mafia. He's going to be on my channel next week. He's the one who invented the term Khazarian Mafia. The Khazarians are descended from Japheth. Therefore, they cannot be Semitic people because they are not descended from Shem.
And they settled in Eastern Europe.
And they're a Caucasian people.
Well, that's wonderful. I hope other people can debate that and make the distinctions and run with it, because that's something I'm not interested in, because I step back.
Okay. Well,
I step back.
And again, I know you talked about this. You don't want to make this Israeli dominant, and I respect that. So let's talk about let's
go to the BRICS.
Yeah, let's go to the BRICS and talk about some XRP and some other stuff, because I know there's a lot of things that are coming down the pike here. So
the BRICS, let's just call it the BRICS Union Love Fest, and the recruiting parties. Like Argentina and Indonesia and Mexico, the recruiting parties, they're on hold because we've now got a very big distraction in the other rooms, and they're so loud and they're so ugly that they're attracting a lot of attention. But okay, I use the word irony and paradox more lately than I ever have, but there's a very unusual fact of life with respect to the BRICS right now, and the, let's just call it the consequences of the Gaza Israeli incident. The BRICS, if they had a meeting planned next week or next month, they'll probably delay it. If they had individual one-on-one recruiting meetings, they'd probably delay it. If they had initiatives that they were going to try to push forward, they probably delay them. And what is not being delayed is the de-dollarization. Okay, so you can distract all you want, but they're still de-dollarizing. By that I mean, on the reserve side, they're selling treasury bonds, and on the trade side, they're finding alternatives to using the treasury bill, the treasuries at all. Some people are a little confused on what treasuries are, and I'm a little surprised in the last few months, but let me just give a quick footnote item. The U.S. government runs a lot of deficits. We need to pay for the deficits because it involves spending more money than we have. So we borrow money, and we do it by putting the deficit in a secure bond. It's called a security. It's called securitizing the deficit. So we securitize the debt, we issue a bond, and we sell the bond, and we get bids in an auction. Bond investors buy the bond in order to finance our deficit for the U.S. government debt. That's in a nutshell. Now, if it's a short maturity, like under 5 years, we call it a bill. If it's 10 or 30 years, we tend to call it a bond, but technically the 10-year is a note, and I don't care. I call it a bond because Greenspan basically said we're going to roll everything from the 30-year to the 10 because it'll be easy to manage. So he declared the 10-year as a bond. We still have a 30-year. You can't tell everybody from 22 years ago, sorry, you're going to have to redeem. They said, well, screw you. I've got a 30-year bond. Get out of my way. So they're going to hold to maturity. There's still some around, but there's no new issuance of 30-year bonds. But there was an issuance in Austria of a 100-year bond, and it lost 60% for the morons who were stupid enough to buy it with their heads up their asses. I laughed when I saw that. I laughed. I said, who's stupid enough to buy? Oh my gosh, it had buyers. Unbelievable. They're going to regret that in 3 or 4 years. Yep, 60% down. So we're seeing the trade payment practices continuing on the non-treasury road. And we're seeing dumping of the treasuries in their reserves. That's the two sides. The savings account for countries that had a surplus. What do they do with it? Well, they load them into treasury bonds. That's what they've been doing for 50 years. Includes the Arabs. And now they're starting to change. And that's going to be a very big change to the weather vane where the wind is shifting on geopolitical, trade winds. Okay. So on the trade side, we're getting more and more non-dollar trade to the point now where it's under 50%. In the last 2 years, it has gone down over 10%. Whereas in the previous 10 years, I don't think it went down more than 1.5% or 2%.
Wow.
So we got a very big drop in treasury bond, treasury bill, treasury usage for trade settlement. Okay, I'm just going to go straight to a gangbuster forecast with a preliminary story. I did a consult call in June or so. It was a guy in Oman, and he was perfect bilingual. He said, Jim, I speak Arabic every day, but most days I speak some English. I do business. I've got contractors. I got friends in Europe. And he said, Jim, I want you to know something. UAE has been leading the charge. Are you aware that they spent like $250 million on crypto development for structure and smart contracts and all kinds of different things? And I said, I am, but not with a lot of details. I couldn't tell you what exactly their projects were, only that they had a lot of projects and they spent 250 million. And that's the most in the entire Persian Gulf. He said, yes, yes. And Oman and Bahrain, he pronounced it Bahrain.
Bahrain.
Oman and Bahrain, they're using XRP. And so's UAE. And I said, tell me, what are they using it for? And I've mentioned this in other shows. I think in the past, I've mentioned it in your show. It's for utility bills, electric bills, cell phone bills, light bills, water bills. Water bill is a big issue in the Persian Gulf. Not so much in the United States. Oh, I got a water bill. It's only $8. Well, in the Persian Gulf, I got a water bill. It's 120. Okay. A little bit different in the desert. And he said, it's being used in some business functions. And I said, let me guess, something like a construction project, and the contract for cement might be with a particular company and they got like a $3,500 monthly cement bill. He said things like that. Yes, small bills within the commerce sector, and it's not for utilities, not for electricity and water, etc., and phone. And here's my forecast. We've already seen France with respect to the United Arab Emirates and liquefied natural gas. So let's throw in the acronym. So France has bought UAE LNG, and they're paying for it in yuan, Chinese yuan. That is breaking ground. European nation, Persian Gulf supplier, Asian currency. Three-part to that little picture. My forecast is that eventually France will announce that they're going to be paying a portion of some oil or gas or LNG from the Persian Gulf, and the contract will stipulate not for the entire thing, but the contract might say something like 20% would be paid in XRP. And that will break the ground. And then you'll hear Italy doing the same thing, Netherlands doing the same thing, the countries that don't have any oil and gas discovery and production. Russia had let it be known that where SWIFT is blocked, an alternative will be actively used in XRP. And I have a different view of Russia doing that. I've mentioned this before, I'm repeating myself, but Russia sees XRP as a backdoor investment toward gold to drive up the gold price and put a hot poker up the Anglo-American bankers' asses to lift the gold price and harm the dollar. All right, so that's my Persian Gulf spiel. And let's just watch to see if the sanctions, and well, when the West does it, it's called sanctions. When the Arabs do it, they call it an embargo.
That's true.
And you know, it is what it is. Let's see if the embargo train gets any traction. We've already got France making it illegal. It is now a criminal violation to have a protest in favor of Palestine and to wave that flag. France made it a criminal violation.
Really?
Yeah. So I think France is going to be in trouble in ways we don't quite anticipate. They might be the first nation to be embargoed, is what I'm driving at. France is always different. And for those who don't know, Sarkozy was a president for, I don't know, a dozen years, something like that. And he was right out of CIA.
I did not know that, but that did not know that, but that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. Macron is different. Macron is a sex party toy, sex party favor, who, let's just say, please his men master clients so much that they said, we're going to make you president of France, you little sweetie. Okay. And for those who don't know, his wife, Bernadine or Bernadette, I can't remember.
It's like twice his age or something like
that. His wife is a man.
No, I had not heard that. But that
she is the manhandler for the sex party toy.
That would not surprise me at all.
Well, you know, take a look at the United States between 2008 and 2016. We broke ground in that, and with the racial barrier. By the way, I just got my hands on a 1990 photograph of Barack and Michael, where Michael was sporting a mustache.
Oh, shock.
Okay. And it just brings up a story. In 8th grade, I got the 8th grade Latin award. I also got the 8th grade math award. I got the freshman, sophomore, and junior high school math awards out of 400 kids. But in 8th grade, I got the Latin award, and I had a crush on Sister Cecilia. She was very cute. She was nice to me. I got the award. I was the best student in Latin. I loved it. I really did. I loved it. I thought this is great for building a vocabulary. But my joke is that I loved Sister Cecilia, even though she had a mustache. But she was not like Big Mike. Big Mike had a mustache from basic testosterone. Okay, back to the BRICS. They've been sidetracked, but their agenda, and here's another zinger, their agenda of de-dollarizing is not off the path. It is still going with great momentum. And there's a little country that's a very important country and a powerful export trade country called Japan. They've made no overtures whatsoever to joining the BRICS. They've made no, like, come on over and let's talk, bring your Persian representative, and the Chinese and Persians and Japanese will get together and talk shop. There's been nothing. But the Japanese are doing precisely the BRICS de-dollarization. They're the biggest dumper of treasury bonds on the planet. They're bigger. They were bigger than China recently in 2022. They had a 23% decline in their yen currency. That's a consequence of selling treasury bond, because the foundation of a foreign forex currency is the treasury bond. That's a little hard to wrap your head around, but you need to watch the Japan example. It has been now like a case study for the jackass crew. And one of my colleagues pointed it out and he said, Jim, check this out. You'll find it amazing. The basis of the British pound is the treasury bond. If Britain dumps treasuries, they're going to see a decline in the British pound. The basis of the euro is the treasury bond. If central banks across Europe dump the treasury bond, the euro is going to go down. And Japan just showed it. The yen went down 23% so badly, Ron, that it caused tremendous amount of dumping of Japanese government bonds by foreign investors who took the currency hit. So Japan had to buy their own treasury bonds. They're called Japanese government bonds, JGBs. The Japanese then decided we can't do this without printing money. So they monetized the purchase of foreign dumped Japanese government bond, JGB. They printed money, they monetized it, and they did further damage to their yen currency. It's still going down. And I could get into a number of different things, but I don't want to confuse the matter. Japanese sold treasury bonds. Their yen went down, not up. Down. The dollar did not go down. The dollar went up because the yen went down. When foreigners sell the treasury bonds, the dollar will go up. And that's what it's doing. It broke 106. I said, watch. I said a month and a half ago, watch 105. They're going to break it. It's going to go above it. And that means the euro is going down because it's got a 52% weight on the dollar index, the USDX. Okay, so the euro is going down, which means, and the yen went down, which means the Japanese can sell Toyotas to the United States
for whatever
cheaper,
they want.
For cheaper. But they don't want treasuries. Okay, this is going to get very weird, very ugly, very fast. The BRICS are going to eventually entertain Japan as maybe an unwilling member because they're doing exactly the BRICS dance of de-dollarizing. They're also buying gold. They're selling treasury, buying gold, and they are figuring that the gold purchase will strengthen their yen, which has gone down. So they're amplifying the gold purchases to defend against the yen decline.
Really?
And the American press is saying they're buying gold to defend their currency. Well, they're buying gold to get off the treasury and dollar standard for reserve. And so China. Okay, we're getting false financial reporting that Japan and China are defending their currency by buying gold. No, they're dumping the treasuries and the dollar as the global reserve. They're getting rid of the 70-year dollar standard, the global dollar standard. They're getting rid of it. They're buying gold. In their banking system, they're going to get a stable banking system. They're going to get good growth when they're well along in the transition. And the Japanese are showing something, Ron, that is really quite remarkable. If you guys do that Operation Sandman, you're going to be committing suicide in your own countries.
Interesting.
So they're not going to do it. I say it's not going to be a 2-day event for 2 trillion. It's going to be a 2-year event for 2 trillion. We're going to see the dollar in trouble from rising. We're going to see the treasury bond in trouble from no buyers. And it's going to go on for 2 years. And Ron, it's going to kill the U.S. banks. We're going to get a recognized treasury bond default. They're going to have to continue to raise interest rates to avoid auction failures. It's not to defend against price inflation, because when they raise interest rates, they're getting in the way. They are hindering the expansion of the supply chain business sector. They're going to make the shortages worse. We're being lied to about everything on policy. Foreigners are not buying gold because they got a weak currency.
Just on policy? Shit, they've been lying to us about everything, about everything.
I know. I use that as a phrase.
I know. I'm being a smart ass, but at the same time, I'm not. You know, I mean,
They lied. Okay, when I started the newsletter, there were 3 things, Ron, in 2004. Let's look at price inflation and how they lie. What is the real price inflation? Looking at the jobless rate, unemployment, and it's not low. They're lying. It's much higher. And the GDP, global, what do you call it? Gross domestic product, GDP. When I was growing up, it was the gross national product, but they wanted to get out the import-export side so that it was a domestic only. What is the growth of our economy alone? Putting the imports and exports out of the picture. And we're lied about that too. So what I did for the first, 3 or 4 years, I relied heavily on subscription to John Williams' shadow government statistics. And it was the pre-Clinton CPI, and then it was the pre-2000 CPI. Okay, it was like the pre-Clinton CPI, the Clinton CPI, and the post-Clinton CPI. And that's all Robert Rubin. Robert Rubin's hand is in there. So what Williams did at shadow government stats, he showed what the CPI was using the old formula. And he had all the data, so he could crunch it all and show you what the CPI was. And back then it was a good 3 or 3.5%, 4% differential. And now it's like, I don't know, 11. So I had a point that I made at the Canadian conferences. Whatever the lie is for the price inflation, that's the lie, the same lie on the other side for, the inflation adjusted GDP, economic growth. So we're lying by 11%. This is hard to swallow. We're lying by 11% on the U.S. economy growth. Our recession is something on the order of minus 10%.
Wow.
Okay, this is not rocket science, Ron. What are we lying by? Okay, remember 2 years ago we had shadow government said we got about 17% price inflation.
Pause
do
that,
we-
for, pause that
what
for
do we-
pause that for a quick second. Pause that for a quick second. Sorry, I had I have an appointment for my cat at the vet tomorrow, so she was just calling to confirm.
One of the easiest deceptions to prove is the price inflation and the exaggerated economic growth. You take a look at the official CPI, you look at its jagged line, and back then it was like 2.5%, 3.5%. Then you look at the John Williams shadow government, and it was like 7.5%, 8%. It was 8 plus or minus, 7.5%, 8%, 8.5%, and the differential was about 4 or 5%. And I said, that is the lie on economic growth. And back then we had like 2% growth. Well, if you subtract 4 and 5% off 2 and 2.5, you've got 2%, give or take, recession every year. We've been in a recession, I believe, for 30 years.
I agree.
Okay. We also had something called the Chapwood CPI. This came out around 2014. It was fascinating because what he did was he looked at 10 U.S. cities. It was basically an urban CPI, and he had 500 items, including some things like car insurance and home and fire insurance, stuff like that. So he had 500 different categories. And he said, we have year after year, New York City and Los Angeles at 10% price inflation. Year after year, like from 05 all the way to 2014 when he did it. And all the rest of the cities were about 8.5%. The worst were Los Angeles and New York City. He concluded, this is him, not me, I quoted him. He said, therefore, the cumulative effect from the last several years is that we got 20% smaller economy, 20 to 22% smaller economy than what we are reporting.
Wow.
Now, I extend that, into the, the post fake pandemic bullshit era. And I never say pandemic. I say fake pandemic.
That's because
I never around here, I never say pandemia. I say pandemia de engaño, the fake pandemic. And they go, oh, it was fake? I said, yeah. Are you the dumbest one in the room? I'm not a very nice guy sometimes with stupid people. I'm just not. I told 3 people.
You and I are in good company then, Jim.
I told 3 people in the last few days who are wearing a mask. That's a really nice mask you have. Is that for ignorance or slavery?
Yeah, exactly. I just can't anymore. Whenever I see somebody, I was like, it really must be tragic to just live your life in a constant state of fear.
Well, you call it fear. I call it stupidity.
Well,
extreme ignorance that has as a side effect fear. And I got called down. I've done it about 30 times in the last 3 or 4 months. I haven't done it today yet, but the day is young. I got called down by a woman. She lowered her mask and said, "Sir, I'll have you know that I've been sick, and I'm trying to protect myself because I'm not feeling really strong." And I said, "Okay, but be careful because you're breathing your own bacteria." And she said, oh. And I walked away. I don't want to debate these people. I walk away.
Right.
And often it's riding away. I stop my bicycle to ask if they're ignorant or a slave. Sorry.
Well, there's stuff.
I have a really good time. I got to tell you. Okay. Back to the price inflation, post-COVID bullshit. We had, I believe we had shadow government reporting almost a 20% price inflation. And we had the, Bureau of Labor Statistics. They were forced to say something close to reality. So they came out with a 7 or 7.5%. So I just say, roughly 10 or 11% is the VIG, the lie. And they were saying that we're almost flatline for the GDP economic growth. And I said, well, minus 10%.
Right.
Okay, this is really not difficult. The harder one, and I got my way, is the jobless rate. But they do something. They do something that exposes their error. If you only bother to check it, look, and to think. They call it the participation rate. The participation rate is the percentage of people who are actively in the workforce. Well, duh, is that not 1 minus the unemployment rate? Golly, what on earth are people thinking? No, no, no. The unemployment rate is what they're telling us after they got all the different calculations from state unemployment applications and dropping off and all the other seasonal adjustments. And then they're hocus pocus. And I call it the other one. It's the X anus factor.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The participation rate has been a little bit over 70%, 75%. 1 minus that means you got unemployment about 25, and that is pretty darn close, not exact, to the shadow government statistics unemployment rate.
Wow.
22, 25%. A couple, 2 or 3 or 4% below the participation inverted 1 minus. You know, I'm not using calculus here. I'm not using differential equations here. I'm not using canonical symmetric matrix breakdown here. I'm doing simple subtraction, 1 minus. I'm doing simple subtraction. The shadow government minus the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Right now, it's about 8 or 10% differential for inflation. That is the lie. And by the way, they're giving more to Social Security. And I got a big bump. You know, I've been receiving it now for 4 years. And I got some advice for people. If you're waiting another year to get a little bit increase, don't. Okay, take some advice from a mathematical expert. I did the calculation and I determined that if I wait 1 year, I will get that back in 12. Don't wait. So you get a little bit less. So what? By waiting 5 months, I lost close to $10,000.
Really?
5 months.
Wow.
Don't wait, because when you do wait, you're leaving yourself vulnerable to their chicanery. I'm sorry, James, we lost that form and we've been slow in informing you about that. Can you resubmit it? Boom, 3 months lost. Okay. And you think they make up for it? No.
Never.
Okay, don't wait. I had a consult call with a nice lady about 3 weeks ago, and I got on her case. Said, don't wait, lady, don't wait. I said, shall we go through the recovery process here? Okay, so you'll get what, 18 more per month? Well, actually, it's 21. I said, okay, 21 times 12 is $240. Okay, and we've worked it all out. I said, look, it's like over 10 years to recover. Don't wait. Okay. I've been told, by the way, that, and I hear it over and over again, that military disability, like for wounded soldiers, crippled soldiers, and Social Security are the two untouchables. We might not get food stamps on the other side of the reset, and that could bring about, let's just say, urban riots. Okay.
That would be, I have to say that would be I don't know, man. Forgive me if I sound cold-hearted, but I think that would be a wonderful thing.
What I would like to see is, if they're going to give food stamps and call it SNAP, make it basic, make it not graduated, which means if you have 8 babies from 4 different men, you don't get 5 times as much, and drive a big SUV and rent a nice place. Make it basic. It doesn't matter how many kids you have, because we're getting lower class explosion of population in order to benefit from, okay, this is not a racial argument. There are plenty of poor whites in Alabama and Arkansas
West
can
Virginia,
do the same thing.
Ohio, Pennsylvania. Yep. Did you
All
see? Did you see where they began to implement early voting in Pennsylvania using driver's license renewals?
No.
And I'm gonna look. I'll look the story up here in a minute. But as I recall, what they found was the Democrats were thinking it was going to be a good thing, but what they found was like 80 to 90% of the renewals were re-registering as Republicans in Pennsylvania. Let me see.
Yeah, but you still got a very strong influence from Ambassador Dominion.
Well, yeah, but if JFK, if RFK Jr. runs as an independent, I mean, if you've seen his platform, he is not going to be taking votes away from the Republicans. He's going to be taking votes away from the Democrats. And when he splits the vote for the Democrats, it's going to be exactly the same thing that Perot did when he took votes away from Bush in 1992.
I don't buy that argument.
Well, I'm just saying.
I don't buy the argument. I think that Robert Kennedy would be regarded as an anti-cabal, anti-uniparty.
Understood.
And he would take votes away from Trump.
I'm going to respectfully disagree, because if you look at his platform, I mean, he's all
people are not going to look at their platform. You're giving them way too much credit for intelligence.
You very well.
I'm talking about a stupid population.
You could be very correct on that. I could be wrong.
They'll look at Robert Kennedy and he's talking against the system, talking against the vaccine, talking against the corrupt bankers. So's Trump.
I'm just saying that when you look at the polls that have come out as a result of that, what they're seeing is that yes, the numbers are coming down for Trump in general, but his lead is going up because
it's harming the Democrat more than Trump.
Right.
Okay, well, that's all well and good, but I don't like three-party races. I believe that the uniparty, the narcos and Satanists, I think they would find a way to help Robert Kennedy and make it so that they split the anti-narco Satanist vote. They are very slippery. They're very devious. They could do things like permit more ads for Robert Kennedy and forbid more ads for Trump. There are lots of things they can do. Anyway, I don't want to get into political discussion because it's very hard to prove anything. And it's based on opinion and it's very subjective. And I just don't go for it. I don't care about it at all. I don't care about the discussion.
I'm just saying so far there's the article that I see so far, Republicans gain most from automatic voter registration in Pennsylvania. So it's like I'm just
okay. Well, that's fine. That has nothing to do with Robert Kennedy.
Sure.
And Robert Kennedy, I think, is one of the most listless, boring, unremarkable speakers that I've ever seen in my entire life.
Right.
I mean, I enjoyed listening to Ross Perot more than that.
I actually went to a Ross Perot rally when I was younger in Long Beach.
Just like running a mom and pop shop.
Exactly.
and in Arkansas, you're no bigger than Chiquita Banana.
Oh, you make me feel like I'm 21 again.
I thought Ross Perot was going to do a lot of damage to the opponent to Clinton, and he did. They have a way of making sure that they draw the third party draws votes away from the designed winner, and I don't want to see it. I want to see Ambassador Dominion.
Well,
shackled.
You are preaching to the choir on that one, my friend.
And Smartmatic too. Don't leave them out.
I agree.
And the Rammstein satellite influence that has to be shut down. And I'm not sure they've got that all lined up yet. Not sure. Not sure that's under control. Okay. Look, Ron, there are so many things going on right now. One of the big items that we've not touched on is the explosive rise in unrealized bond portfolio losses among the big banks. I reported, I believe in July, that it was 620 billion. Just think of it as primarily the large banks. The large banks have leveraged bond portfolios, which means they borrow money, they use the margin debt, they double down and triple down on their bonds. And for those who are not too familiar, if a bank had a bunch of treasury bonds from back in the 2.5% to 3% era, they're down 40%. Now, John Q. Public and Jill Q. Public don't pay attention to that.
True.
Financial analysts do. It's called unrealized asset losses, portfolio losses, and they're primarily bond and portfolios with leveraged bonds. And here's where it makes it worse. Sometimes they do something like an arbitrage. They sell one bond and buy another, and they get burned sometimes on both ends. And I don't want to get too involved with examples, except to say that the treasury bond is often involved in structured investments. So if the structure is seeing its foundation drop 40% or even 30%, like say low threes for older bonds that were bought, if their entire investment structure has a foundation that's down 30%, the building falls down. And that's what we're seeing right now. And that is precisely why JP Morgan is no longer acquiring troubled banks. Instead, you've got, and I wrote it down here, so I got it right on the edge of my computer, the Bank Term Funding Program. The Bank Term Funding Program. It's got a lot of nicknames, but I call it the Bank Term Funding Program because that's what it is. It is like the waiting room for a bankrupt bank. That's where they go to get aid, to get them through the next month. But by doing that, they're letting a billboard be painted for who are the next banks to die. Because if they go to the bank term funding in a bigger volume than they did in July, it is noticed and it's terminal. Okay, the point now is that $130 billion unrealized loss was announced for Bank of America. Now, Bank of America has sharp guys out of, Ivy League schools and Wharton School of Business and other people who know how to lie and deceive with their pen. They actually had an increase in earnings, and I believe it fortified their BOA, the symbol of BAC, Bank of America, BAC. I think it's on the death watch because of unrealized losses, which if you add them together with the other big banks and the others, it was 620 billion 2 months ago, 3 months ago. I'm estimating it's somewhere around 800 billion right now. What happens when the banking industry for the United States has $1 trillion in unrealized losses on their balance sheets? Holy moly. What we're getting, Ron, is an echo for the Treasury bond default. It's private bank centers and their failure because of their leveraged portfolios.
Hmm.
Now, I've got some people who tell me, Jim, you're saying things that aren't true. You're saying, well, maybe they got 3 times leverage on a 30% loser of the bond.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I got news for you, Jim. It's more like 10 to 1. So what happens if you got 10 to 1 leverage on a 30% loser? You just lost 300%. You lost your entire investment plus a whole bunch more. That's like buying a property in Costa Rica. That's what happened to me.
Hmm.
I lost more of the investment. Okay. The point is we got a bond default that they cannot hide much longer. And as an echo, you've got a private sector large bank failure. It's going to have ripples. And I'm waiting and waiting for the first announced derivative explosion. I'll just make something up. Bank of America announces that they've got a $5.5 trillion derivative failure. And they're wrestling with the issue of patching it over with the Fed help or confiscating all their deposits at the bank.
Hmm.
And what's the basis? The bond derivatives. They went bad. They're not raising interest rates to protect against price inflation.
No, they aren't.
They're going to make it worse because there will be no expansion of the supply side businesses. You know, we're using knucklehead Keynesian knee-jerk reactions. Well, wait a minute, Jim. In the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, every time we raised interest rates, we brought inflation down. And I said, yeah, you idiot, pre-COVID.
Well,
okay.
So do you think that, and I don't know if this is connected or not, and forgive me if I'm asking a stupid question. Do you believe that the Trump printing of the increase in the M1 supply by a factor of 5 when Trump printed all that money in 2020, do you believe that was a mechanism to destroy to help accelerate the destruction of the Federal Reserve System?
I can only conjecture, speculate, use your favorite word, guess. I think they might have printed a lot of money in order to secure gold troves abroad, large, many tens of thousands of tons of gold. And they might have used the money to liquidate some derivatives and reduce risk. What is your speculation again?
So so when Trump, with all the system where he came in, he was going to like help all the people with the basically helping out Americans with the SBA stuff, and giving all these people the money. And he basically increased the money supply by a factor of 5.
But I'm asking, where do you think it went? What is your theory?
Well, my thought is that my thought was that the whole point of what he did was by inflating the currency, that you would increase by increasing the currency, you're going to accelerate the demise of the Federal Reserve, because you're going to decrease the value of the dollar. By inflating the currency, fivefold.
The typical argument is you inflate the currency to make your debt look smaller.
Right. But you're also
not. Well, look, Europeans don't have reduced deficits. I mean, we're all going down the toilet. So which is the most attractive turd?
Okay. All right.
I think that there was an effort to begin liquidating derivatives. And they might have stopped because they realized, $5 trillion is a drop in the bucket. We're talking about 750 here.
Okay.
Okay. But I don't really know. I believe that he needed a lot of funding for a war and to bribe and to buy and to influence
For
in
war.
capturing gold troves.
For war. For Trump did for war?
A war against the cabal to
Okay,
capture
okay.
gold troves.
Okay. Okay.
There was a killing war that Trump was involved in. It was at the highest level on the planet. It was the Kissinger guys.
Right.
It was the guys who killed Neil Keenan.
Mm.
Neil Keenan has a replacement now.
No, I'm not familiar with who Neil Keenan is.
Legacy 100-year-old gold bonds.
Okay.
It's complicated, and I don't have a lot of information on it, but I will say this. In the last year, I've had a couple people approach me. Okay, remember it was about a month or two ago, and it was Trump just had a $27 trillion check to reduce the government debt. You remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I asked, well, where'd that come from? Is that from one of his gold troves? Because about 15,000 tons is $1 trillion. You know, very, very roughly, don't pin me down. 15,000 tons, give or take a couple, give or take a couple thousand tons. 15,000 tons is $1 trillion. So 28 trillion is 28 times 1.5. It's like, 40,000 tons of gold. Okay, that's just to make a linkage. 40 to 50,000 tons of gold is what 27 trillion is. Okay, I asked the question repeatedly to all kinds of different colleagues and contacts, where'd the money come from? And finally, I got someone who said to me, Jim, I heard you on an interview. I've got information and it's very reliable. It came from the Saint Germain Fund. Germaine. And I said, who's in charge of that? And he said, well, like many of them, they're out of the Pacific Rim. And I said, I got the impression that Pacific Rim is like a war ground, a war zone between East and West. And just because it's in the Pacific Rim doesn't mean it's Asian gold. And he said, that's correct. So when they stole Fort Knox, they hid it in Indonesia because they corrupted the Indonesian leaders. Okay, I got another guy who contacted me several months ago, and he said, Jim, I want you to read this. And I looked at it, and I said, is this for real? Marcos in the Philippines had 1.3 million tons of gold?
Well,
he said, yeah.
Is now, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't that the gold that everybody was talking about that was ours? That was that's where he found the gold that was essentially stolen out of Fort Knox, or
okay. Fort Knox is 8,500. I said 1.3 million tons of gold. 8,500 versus 1.3 million tons of gold.
That's a significant difference.
The guy actually told me, he said, Jim, think of it as having 5 to 7 mountain locations in the Philippines. And he said, don't get caught up in a lot of the details. There's a lot of gold out there, and most of it is coming to the front stage to become the monetary system. And it's not going to be sold. It's not going to result in gold going down to $1,000. It's going to become a foundation, not to be sold. Now, right now, we've got an upside down foundation where debt with the Treasury bond is the foundation. It's called the upside down Exeter pyramid. Flip it and you get gold at the top. And that's where we're going. And that's why the elites and the globalists are so pissed off. There is a lot of gold coming to the table. And I think Trump did kind of a maybe a trial balloon test ride. Let's see what happens by letting it be known that a $27 trillion check will be reducing the government debt. Now it's 6 trillion. Okay, There wasn't a big reaction because most people are easily distracted by Monday Night Football, by the advent of college football. They're distracted by Susie next door, who just turned 20. They're distracted by a sale of Budweiser beer, Bud Light, now $1 for a 6-pack because they can't give it away. They're distracted by their neighbors who are dying of the vaccine, but don't know it, and they got cancer. They're distracted by Jamie Foxx, who's been replaced, my favorite black actor. By the way, I saw Damar Hamlin on the Buffalo sidelines, and he looks remarkably like Damar Hamlin.
Yeah, I know. I saw that too.
But he's not playing. Why is he not playing? Well, we don't want to risk his heart. Okay. Why is he in uniform? For show. Okay. We're being taken on a ride. He's not dead. He's on the bench. He's not playing because he had a heart attack. Well, can we prove some of his childhood memories and best friends in 4th grade? That's a nice little example. Okay, Ron, we got the banking system breaking down. We've got Wells Fargo having discharged their entire mortgage business. We got Bank of America announcing a $130 billion unrealized portfolio loss. And they're not going to get out of this alive. It's going to get worse. It's now roughly 800 billion in unrealized losses for the big banks, and maybe the regional banks thrown in. What is going to happen when it hits $1 trillion? Will there be a massive global abandonment of the U.S. stock market because they see that the U.S. banking industry is going to go deadly into destruct mode? That's what I think is going to happen. A global abandonment of the stock market. And by the way, let me just leave you with I'd like it to make a final point. The Swiss in 2012 engineered the 120 euro peg. There were so many countries in the Eurozone, in the pigs nations, that were abandoning the euro in favor of the Swiss, that the Swiss currency went up about 20% and caused incredible problems. So the Swiss central bank, called the Swiss National Bank, SNB, their central bank in Switzerland, instituted a 120 peg where they forcibly kept the Swiss currency at 120 euros, or the euro. Yeah, I don't know whether it's the other way around. I don't know, and I don't care. They enforced a 120 peg, and to do that, they had to buy euros. So they were buying the euro dumped by Greece and Italy and Germany and Spain. Okay. Now, we thought that was the end of it, but it wasn't. A year or two later, they turned to the United States, and this is my interpretation. They said, give us your tired, your worn, and your weak narco money. Give us your huddled masses of large piles and pallets of narco money. And we in Switzerland will invest in FANG stocks, Facebook, Apple, Netflix, Google, and later the MATs, Microsoft, Amazon, Tesla. Give us your tired and worn narco money. We'll invest it. And that's called money laundering.
Mm-hmm.
And on the other side of that, remember, buy dollar, sell gold. They were buying U.S. stocks, which is dollar. Buy dollar, sell gold. And later, by 2018 or so, maybe 17, it became known that the Swiss were responsible for taking the 2011 and 12 gold price of 1900 and sending it right back to the seller at 1300. Seller with a C, as in basement. Okay, now, here we are. They're going to have to buy back their Swiss currency. They're going to have to buy back gold. They're going to have to sell the euro. While it's already going down from treasury bond dumping, perfect opportunity. They're going to have to sell the U.S. stock market to buy back their gold. People are wondering, where's the gold rally going to come from? And I say, the Swiss National Bank. And they're going to bring about a decline in the U.S. stock market because they moved, I think, $1 trillion or more, and they've let it be known. They had $1 trillion U.S. stock portfolio. They were the largest investor in the world for Apple. I think they moved $1 trillion to $1.5 trillion of narco money to buy U.S. stocks.
Now, shifting gears because I know we're wrapping it up here, but you sent me an article the other day about BlackRock and JP Morgan preparing to ignite the XRP bull run.
Yeah, I haven't fully examined that yet.
Okay. Do you want to?
Have you?
No. I mean, I was going to ask you about it because I read it, but I just don't understand financial matters like you do. I mean, it wasn't a very long article, but it just said that this is an XRP struggling to reclaim its 50% price point during current Bitcoin rally, propping up the crypto market. Meanwhile, in a recent publication, Billy Bamberg, a senior forums contributor, noted that XRP market is primed for a substantial boost to be led by an unusual force, black market and JP Morgan. Specifically, forums asserted that global giants Morgan and BlackRock would spearhead the bull rally. According to Bamberg, the two financial behemoths are silently preparing the grounds for an upcoming surge in the cryptocurrency market. To back this claim, the senior contributor outlined multiple crypto-specific endeavors BlackRock and Morgan have jointly orchestrated. The report cited that BlackRock has achieved a significant milestone by becoming the first Wall Street titan to employ the blockchain-based collateral system program backed by Morgan.
Okay. I read an article since that sharing that indicated the U.S. government from confiscation cases, legal cases, is sitting on close to $10 billion worth of Bitcoin. I believe this is just a quick reaction without a lot of research, not a lot of research. It could be that BlackRock, and who was the other one?
BlackRock and JP Morgan.
JP Morgan. It could be that JP Morgan is sitting on a lot of Bitcoin and they don't know what to do with it.
Or XRP, or both.
I'm saying that they're sitting on a lot of Bitcoin from the government confiscations or custody holder. Someone's holding it for the government. And JP Morgan is a good boy. All right. They might be thinking, let's cause a rally in XRP and find a usage for the Bitcoin. And let's make some good money on XRP, buy it up, and maybe take it to like $4, $5, and then dump it. But the error they might make is that the rally might be sustained. And it might be joined by other countries saying, look what's happening with Bitcoin. Now that it's got a higher market cap, it can fulfill more function. And then you get maybe an increase in the number of coins to accommodate a country that wants to buy a bunch and they don't want the big purchase to push the price up too fast. So that's how you raise the price from demand, but also from expanded usage. That's how you increase, the market cap. What I'm just speaking loosely here. It could be that Wall Street's got an idea that they can cause an XRP rally that they can exit. And to me, it'd be kind of like causing a trend in email that they want to exit, but then it went global. Remember, email was a DARPA project. I was at Digital Equipment Corporation before email. This is the 80s, and we called it ENET. I'll send you a message on the ENET, and it was all within digital. And I had a list for the softball team, 15 guys. I was a manager for about 3 years. I didn't like it. I'd rather be a player. Anyway, I would keep in touch with clients. Okay, I'll set up a meeting. All right, well, I'll have my secretary send up an ENET message with my 6 subordinates and 2 from your group, Jim. And that's how we communicated. And I learned at that time that the ENET was used with digital equipment and military contractors and universities. And it was called DARPA. Okay, they shared university research with military contractors. And we had at Digital a big military client base. Big. All right, it's a long story. I don't have a lot of details on it, but I only mention that because arrogant entities sometimes believe that they can control wild horses. And I think they don't have a group of wild horses with XRP. I think they've got a herd of cats. And they can't corral.
No, you cannot.
Have you ever tried to catch a cat?
Yeah, you know I'm a cat person, so I have multiples.
And multiple examples.
Exactly.
You got to trick them.
You cannot. It reminds me of the Budweiser commercial about herding cats. The Super Bowl commercial from several years ago. You just cannot herd cats.
Okay. All right, Ron.
Where can people find you, Jimbo?
golden-jackass.com. We're doing very well now at the website. Attracting a lot of new clients, and I'm very happy about it all. I'm worried about a number of things, about the dollar. I'm worried about credit card usage. I'm worried about massive unemployment and labor union strikes, sabotage. I'm worried about the geopolitical side in the Middle East.
Infiltration of the United States southern border.
Sleeper cells. I just made an argument yesterday and with Chris Marcus about we probably have over 30 million unvetted people, and if it's 1 in 10 of military age and with the cell phone connected to the United Nations waiting word, that's 300,000 in sleeper cells. That is not manageable.
That is not manageable.
I've actually got a client who was in a Nevada client consult call with me. It was about a year ago. He said, Jim, in Reno on a Saturday, you can go by at noon to 1, 2 o'clock, and on several different major street corners, where the boulevards meet, there are 4, 6, or 8 Latinos or Arabs just hanging out. Nothing to do.
Well, I have there's a couple of channels that I follow that on YouTube that delve into geopolitics and things of that nature. And one of them is a guy named his channel is 2, the number 2, the letter A, and it's cops. And he talks about a credible threat and has been talking about this for about the last 30 years about sleeper cells in the United States, and that what they're going to do is have and not just have one active shooter, but have like 100 active shooters all at one time in a city. And when they do that, you're going to totally and completely overwhelm the first responding services of that particular area. And you're not you wouldn't be able to bring in enough people that were off the clock or surrounding area agencies to do that.
I think it's a real threat, Ron, and I hope it happens in San Francisco.
I hope so too. I think that's what's going to happen in
New York
City.
City.
I think that's what's going to happen in a lot of the major cities. I know that they've been talking about they've been talking about we're going to lose 15 to 20 major cities in the United States
from this initiative.
something along those lines. Yeah.
Well, isn't that the Democrat voter
Exactly.
constituency stronghold?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. Well, let that sink in.
Exactly.
There's a lot going on, and I believe that I didn't say this before. The Ukraine war was ending.
Mm-hmm.
They're having trouble to even put people in uniforms for what they now call the meat wave, MEAT, meat wave, the grinder,
right?
Where they're killed in the first week of putting a uniform on. So Ukraine is being phased out, and the Biden show has $100 billion combined Ukraine-Israeli bill. You think anybody's going to get in the way of that?
No.
Okay, and don't insult me by saying it's at taxpayer expense. Taxpayers are not paid for anything in almost 20 years.
No.
It's all deficit spending.
That's
all credit card.
That's right. And it's and I mean the people who think that, oh, your income taxes go to pay for the federal government. No. The federal government is paid for by digits on a screen that's printed by the Federal Reserve, and any money that's collected by the IRS goes to just pay the interest. And we don't even collect enough money to pay the interest on.
Well, I think we do. The income taxes are about, I think, 1.4 trillion, and interest is closing in on 1 trillion. So, but the point is valid. We don't cover jack shit.
No.
The entire government now is in deficit because we're approaching the point where tax revenue is roughly equal to the borrowing cost. Let me point out the Rockefeller subsidy. Medicare and Medicaid are 1.3 trillion. That goes directly to the Rockefeller businesses. It's obscene. I had a dear cousin who recently had a hip replacement. And I said to him, wow, that's a big expense. Are you over 70? I think you are. You're about my age. He said, yeah, I'm 69 and I qualified. Medicare covered it, a hip replacement, and he's doing fine. He's walking perfectly well after 3 months of therapy, getting it strong. That's stuff that I can't do because I'm not there. But, I did get my knee replaced after getting laid off at Digital. They gave me 2 years of health insurance in 1993. And I said, well, by gum, I think I'll get my knee fixed.
Good call.
Good call. I know. And the doctor said, Jim, this is going to give you 15 to 18 years. And that was 1993. And I thought, wow, golly, that's not a long time when you think about it. 2008 to 2011. Well, it's now 30 years.
I don't know why you haven't done something with our friend from Colorado and getting something on with one of those machines. I mean, you would be a perfect candidate for it.
Well, it's torn ACL.
Doesn't matter. I mean, it's not that has nothing to do with it. It's the I mean, it basically keeps you younger because it hyper oxygenates the body. And you as somebody who rides your bike everywhere are a perfect candidate for that.
I suppose it's not easy to get equipment in here. I couldn't even get a few bottles of vitamins in here. I have to wait for visitors.
Gotcha.
And it's not easy because I'm running low on certain things. And one of my friends in Atlanta said, Jim, I don't think I'm going to visit anymore. I don't know. I got problems. I got health problems. I said, you're not vaxxed, are you? He said, no, I got health problems. He had a very severe incident 10 years ago and like an internal poisoning, and he didn't ever get over it. And he's strong as an ox. He's a former football player.
Well, maybe I'll have to come down and see you.
Well, I'm game. I just had someone 2 days ago tell me that he might come down to visit, and there's quite a few things to do here.
Yeah, I mean, I would,
nature
I'd,
type things.
I'd love to come down there and I'd love to come down there and see. Well, we'll talk about that when we finish.
Yeah, I have my little kids climb on you. They're a lot of fun.
So people can find you at golden-jackass.
golden-jackass.com.
Things are going well.
Things are going well. The main thing is the newsletter. It is what dominates 90 to 95% of my time. And I've begun to work on the October report, because here we are. We got 11 days, 12 days counting today. There's also the consult button, and it's really quite incredible how it has doubled in popularity, frequency of usage compared to a year ago. People are very worried about their life savings, Ron.
They should be.
They should be, yeah. I've actually had about 10 people who moved their money out of Wall Street banks. Half of them were JP Morgan, moving $1 million out. A couple were Wells Fargo, a couple were BOA. Nobody was Citi. Oh no, one was Citi. I call it Shitty Bank. It's not because I have a lisp for Shitty Bank.
You're so bad.
And I also call it New York Shitty. I don't like anything about New York Shitty.
No.
But I did find myself pulling for the Jets football after Aaron Rodgers got hurt. He's talking about maybe at the end of the season getting back in. Maybe. Well, that'd be interesting.
I loved it when he came out and said Mr. Pfizer. I thought that was fantastic when he was talking about Kelsey. Did you see that?
I heard about denigration, shilling, but I don't know what Rodgers said. He called him Mr. Pfizer.
Yeah. So the Travis Kelsey, who's the tight end for the
KC Chiefs.
Yeah, he apparently he had he did a commercial where he propped up the vaccine, the Pfizer vaccine, and
never admitted to having taken it, by the way.
Yeah, but he
had a patch on his arm with Band-Aids.
Right. Yeah, and him and Taylor
Swift,
I guess. Yeah. So
who?
Taylor Swift.
Oh, they were. Oh my gosh!
I
didn't know she did too.
Well, no, I mean they're I guess they're an item.
Okay, they're an item. I get that, but he also sold something like 10,000 extra jerseys because of it all.
Something like that.
Yeah. Anyway, I like Aaron Rodgers. He's a bold guy. He actually told ESPN where to get off on their unending harsh criticism of Zach Wilson, who's just a decent quarterback. But confidence is a big part of being a quarterback. It's not just having a good offensive line and receivers. You got to have some confidence, and because you panic. A quarterback can panic. Oh my gosh, what do I do? And they start running and they're tackled for a 3-yard loss, and the down is over.
It's so fast.
It's an amazing sport. It is truly a chess match. And my biggest beef is holding calls and pass interference calls. And you can add to that, what do you call it? Illegal downfield contact. Beyond 5 yards, you can't touch, you can't push a receiver. So, the Zebras are in far more control than we want to admit.
Amen to that. You could literally have a penalty called on every single play, and so they cherry pick the ones that they want to.
I think to some extent that's true. We got a very big game tomorrow. It's in the Horseshoe, Columbus, Ohio. I never missed a home game in 4 years.
Oh, really?
I went to all 20, and some of them were raucous. I can easily say the most exciting sports events I've ever been to was Ohio State football.
Hmm.
I'm getting goosebumps right now, hair standing up from the excitement of going to a game and being on like the 30-yard line upper deck, where they do hang on Sloopy, they go OH, and the other side IO, OH, IO, and before you know it, your seat is moving. The cement is vibrating from the, okay, it's just a lot of fun. They've expanded the stadium from 85 to 105,000, which means they enclosed one end. I wouldn't want to have that as a seat. What, the 10th row in the end zone? I don't think so. The 30th row in the end zone? I don't think so. And we went absolutely nuts with Randy Gradishar. A tackle by Randy Gradishar. Okay, and the place just erupted. It was so much fun. I'm not breaking down. It was incredibly electric. Anyway, we're playing Penn State.
Yep.
And I don't have a really good feeling about it.
You do or do not?
I do not have a very good feeling about it. I do not have a very good feeling about it.
You think Penn State?
Penn State has one of the best pass defenses and pass rushes. They're going to cause a lot of problems, a lot of sacks, a lot of bad throws, and probably a few interceptions at critical points. And we got a young quarterback, what I think his name is McCord, but he's doing well.
Yeah, he's got 1,600
they
yards.
beat in a miracle. They beat Notre Dame at Notre Dame, a miracle ending.
Yeah, well, I mean, USC, my Trojans got their asses handed to them by Wells by
Notre Dame.
Notre Dame last week. Oh my
Well,
God!
Notre Dame had a comeback. They were angry about the Ohio State loss, so they had to prove. And Southern Cal got in the way.
And they were playing Southern Cal, and Southern Cal is, I mean, well,
they're good. They're just not great.
They're a good team, but I mean, they just had a porous offense or a porous defense. So, I mean, they've got a good offense, but if you can't stop people from scoring, then it doesn't matter how much you score.
Well, you need to control the line of scrimmage. A lot of people don't like to admit that in any football game, you control the line of scrimmage, you win the game. You control the line of scrimmage, you can run. Control the line of scrimmage, you can pass. Control the line of scrimmage, you can stop them from doing both.
Right.
Okay. And if you don't have the pulling guards, you can't do a sweep run. If you don't have good protection, the quarterback's going to be rushing and going to get hurt. And that's, don't get me started about running quarterbacks. I think Lamar Jackson is a phenom for Baltimore Ravens pro. But Lamar Jackson is the most overrated quarterback in the NFL. He lost to Pittsburgh. What did he do? He dropped the ball. He threw an intercept. Oh, how many million does he get per year? 20? Okay. Why not make it a performance-based salary? Anyway, I would like to consider that college football players issue stock on their first 3 years of pro career. Wouldn't that be an interesting investment? And only for like the juniors and seniors. You issue a stock and you buy a stock. Anyway, there's a lot going on. A lot of people don't realize, and I only learned 2 years ago, it's something called NIL, name, image, likeness. NIL. And there's a very big competition going on now for selling caricatures of players' faces and, upper torso. Like the quarterback I'll just say the quarterback for Ohio State. And he might have just a moderate valued caricature for the image. And as a result, he only earns $700,000 a year. But the University of Georgia is very much organized on their NIL, name, image, likeness business. So when they're recruiting, They tell the guy, we can guarantee $2 million a year in NIL income.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all legal.
Yep. And they're, I mean, well, the guy Smart, who's running the Georgia program, he was a student of the guy from Alabama, Saban, and he basically went to he went to Georgia, and he's like, okay, well, if you guys are gonna bring me on, then I need this, and this, all the stuff that Saban was doing in Alabama.
In Alabama.
And he got it all. And now look at them. I mean, they're if they win the title this year, that'll be the first team in like what 80 years to win 3 in a row.
Right. Let me mention something. I've mentioned this once before. There's a group of schools that has a very big advantage in recruiting. It's Alabama, it's Clemson, it's Georgia, it's Auburn. Low academic standards.
Mm-hmm.
West Virginia. My father placed 2 professors at West Virginia. I'm talking Morgantown, West Virginia University, WVU. They went out of their minds as professors of literature.
I wish come true.
The hell was that? Sorry about that.
I had an office mate of my sweetheart in the math department at Carnegie Mellon. His name was Victor, and he was from Eastern Europe. And he could not get a professor position because he didn't have a legitimate green card. So he went to the university in West Virginia, and he went out of his mind. He said, Jim, you know me. I have a PhD at Carnegie Mellon in mathematics, and you're in statistics, probability. You know what we know. You know of the caliber. And I was teaching high school algebra and trigonometry at West Virginia University. I had a professor who did not get tenure at Carnegie Mellon. Nice guy, Will. And he went to the University of Georgia. He went out of his mind because they had him teaching calculus, which is for freshmen. He had him teaching other things. He said, Jim, it wasn't statistical analysis. It was statistical calculations. Let's calculate the average of these numbers. And he left after 3 years because he went out of his mind. Okay, that's University of Georgia. But I talked with another guy who got a degree at University of Georgia, and I think it was in history or something like that. And he said, Jim, I know that Georgia's got low academic standards, but I can tell you their history department's pretty good. I said, well, that's great, because I know someone who went from Carnegie Mellon in the statistics department, and he went out of his mind. Okay, Victor eventually met up with me in Boston because we were friends. I'd go down to visit my honey 1 floor down, and Victor's in the office. Oh, she'll be back in a half an hour. Come back in half an hour, Jim. And we'd hang out. We also went to dinner a couple times. We had him over for dinner. Anyway, he got himself a job in a big, like a CAD CAM software company in Boston. He said, Jim, it was perfect. They were Russians. And as you know, I spoke my Eastern European country language, but I also spoke Russian. I said, yeah, I remember that, Victor. I remember. He had me over for dinner to show me his little baby girl. You know, life is weird, but I've got actual examples. I knew a guy who went to Auburn. He said, yeah, you're right. The academic standards are ridiculously low. Okay, it's an advantage for recruiting football players. Hey, look, you're never going to be this, what do you call it? disqualified for bad grades. At University of Michigan, you are.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. I did a little bit of investigation when I was a sophomore at Ohio State, and I knew somebody. Okay, I did not know many athletes, but I knew a guy who was a defensive tackle on the football team. And I said, "How do you guys manage your grade requirements?" He said, "Oh, they got tutors for us. They got courses that are really easy." I said, "You mean the basket weaving story is true?" And he said, "Kind of, yeah." And we laughed. And you may wonder, what were we doing in the living room together? And he got badly injured, and he never made it to his senior year. But I always kept an eye out for him. I remember his name, but I'm not going to mention. Life is weird. Okay, I mentioned that tomorrow is Ohio State. We're hosting Penn State. It's still we. I'm not a big fan of Coach Day. Not a big fan. I don't think he does a good job with the various assistant coaches, like the offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator. They had 2 years of bad linebackers. Now they finally fixed it. Okay, you have bad linebackers, forget about it. You're not going to go anywhere near
That's
the top
true.
10.
That's true.
And he had some guy who was a friend of his. Well, what are you doing, Coach Day? You remember when Ohio State lost at Clemson in a championship game? No, it was the next to last. It was the semifinal about 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
We lost to Clemson.
Mm-hmm.
That was Coach Day. That was his loss. Because he told the players, "I want you to be extraordinarily aggressive to the point of violence." So they had, what do you call it when they, okay, this is the signal for it, targeting. They had a targeting call.
Mm-hmm.
They had a running into the punter call. And those two calls changed the entire game. What are you doing? "Oh, I'm just doing what Coach said, be extraordinarily aggressive." Well, you ran into the punter. They got a touchdown on that drive. Oh my gosh. And a good player was called for the spearing, I always forget the word, targeting. Targeting. Anyway, okay, that's another call. I saw targeting a couple of weeks ago, and they didn't call it targeting. It's got to be head on head.
Well, it
was on the neck. It was a head on the neck.
You said it earlier that the zebras have much more of an influence on the outcome, and I agree with that.
There was one incident that I knew in pro football. There was a game. It was the middle of the season. It was with the Indianapolis Colts and my Patriots, New England Patriots, during the Brady years. And my buddy called me up and said, "Jim, an unbelievable event is about to unfold. I just got a call from a Vegas buddy of mine. And this guy's dead, so I don't care what I have to say that might put him at risk because he's dead." He was not a good guy. Anyway, he said, "Jim, a remarkable event is about to unfold. The Patriots are down something like 24-7. It was a 17-point lead at halftime. Now, you may not know, but they've got halftime rebetting. They do whole new betting at halftime. Okay. The Patriots are down 17. And he said, "Watch the Patriots storm back because they did something with the halftime line." And he said, "Watch the zebras help the Patriots." That's how they do it. There was a holding call. The coach for the Colts was very upset because it gave them a first down and they were able to continue the drive and get a touchdown. Before you know it, the Patriots were almost even, and they actually won the game. So you got money line in addition at the halftime. Money line is who's going to win. Forget the points.
Right.
Money line. I'm not a big bettor, but I will say that when I was in graduate school in 1970, what was that? 76, 7, 8, and 9.
Damn, Jim, how do you remember that far back?
Well, I know I got my master's in 76.
I'm just teasing you.
What I was going to say is that I did some betting. And I'd make money on Saturday and I'd lose it on Sunday. College, Ron, they run the score up.
Yeah.
There are a lot of mistakes, blown coverage, missed tackles. It's fun. It's pageantry. It's electric environment. But I don't care how bad your NFL team is, they can knock off a winner. Like the Jets knocked off Philadelphia at home.
Right.
And that might have been a homer call. That might have been a zebra. And, you know, I'll just say this to close out the topic of zebras. When Jalen Hurts, Philadelphia quarterback, threw that late interception, he was almost at midfield. They did not really need to do a pass. They could have, with just 2 minutes to go, punted and left the Jets on their own 20 or 25-yard line and a long way to go to score. But Jalen Hurts threw what I regard to be a gift interception. He threw it into 3-on-1 coverage with a bad pass that resulted in the guy going all the way down to the 10-yard line. The next play was a touchdown. Here's the main point. In addition to a gift, I looked at his face on the bench. I did not see disappointment and frustration. I saw capture control. Like, I had to do it. Nobody was consoling him. I had to do it. That was the look. I had to do it. I had to do it. It wasn't, oh shit, can't believe it. No. Just like a beaten puppy.
Interesting.
Just saying, Vegas did not want 2 undefeated teams. They might have done the same thing with Cleveland against San Francisco. And tell me the truth. Is McCaffrey, the running back for San Francisco, is he really injured? Or did he not play the rest of the
McCaffrey? Is that the guy who was on did he come from
Carolina a couple years ago?
Oh yeah. Wow. I didn't know that.
No.
I didn't know that
well, he's one of their 2 top running backs. He's amazing.
Yeah.
And he's fast. But he supposedly injured his leg or hip. Really?
Mm-hmm.
Or did that help Vegas win with Cleveland, the deep underdog?
Right.
Okay, dog at home, underdog at home. That's a good combination. Dog at home, not dog on the road. Oh no, you get blown away. Dog at home. I made money with college. I lost it on pro, and I quit after a couple of years. I thought, this is stupid. So I just enjoyed the game.
Well, that's kind of how I roll now. I mean, I don't bet on anything. I'm not a bettor at all. Thank God I didn't bet on the Dodgers this year.
they got smoked. Oh my gosh.
God, that was a disaster.
Well, you said it a month ago. You're a little bit disappointed that their pitching staff on LA is not cutting it.
Well, and I mean, I think about that. We sure could have used Trevor Bauer.
Yeah, he might come back.
Well, yeah, but I've been at this point, it's just like, really? Does it really freaking matter? I mean,
well, you still got a great team.
They never should have let him go. They never should have let him get away.
Well, I know, but that's not a team decision. It's a league decision.
No,
league mafia
wasn't. No, the league didn't have anything to do with that. It had everything. He was cleared by the league. The whole point was that it was all about it was the team, and it was the upper management. It wasn't the front office. The upper management. It was just a joke.
All right. Well, look. Hey, look. It's always great seeing you, Ron.
And good to see you, Trevor.
I know
I've
we
missed you.
extended. You don't need to include the extension of sports, etc. in my my critique of Georgia and West Virginia. Honestly, my dad had two professors. He directed their dissertation and got their doctorate, and they got jobs. They couldn't find a job elsewhere, so they took a job at West Virginia. And did I say they went out of their minds? They went out of their minds after about 3 or 4 years. And once you're there, you can't get out. It's a roach motel.
I believe that.
They put out some good football players. I wouldn't say they put out a lot, but some.
I believe that.
The quarterback of Seattle, what's his name? Can't think. Black guy, Geno Smith. He's from West Virginia. He's doing well. He's doing very well. I like the guy. He's fun to watch. You know, I know that football, at least the biggest of games, which have the most money on them, that's how you determine whether they're rigged or not. The minor games, you know, like two teams that don't even have winning records, that's where you get the good games, and the Zebras are not an influence.
Mm-hmm.
They get phone calls.
Oh, I believe that.
Anyway, it's a dirty game, but it's again, U.S. big business. Wherever there's big dollars, there's corruption.
Always, without.
All right, Ron. You
Hey,
edit this as you see fit. Let me
I
know.
will do. I'm not going to edit too much out. I'll let people see us as we are. So, but
How long have we gone on? This has got to be 2 hours.
Yeah, about a little over 2 hours. So, but it doesn't bother me. I mean, you know, it's like this is who we are, and I have no problem with that. So it's
well, some people might find the sports discussion interesting
Of
because the guy who told me about the New England and Indianapolis Colt game where there's a big comeback, he put money down and he made money because he got a call from a guy who was rigging it. I had another friend who was, he said, Jim, I did this for 30 consecutive games. I participated because I was, you know, a friend of the family, and I was told of the NFL Sure Bet of the Week. And he said, I put a couple $100 every week. Ron, 30 wins, no losses.
Wow.
30 in a row. I said, well, did you put $1,000 on it? He said, I did once or twice, but I tried to keep it to be 500 or less. 30 in a row. I said, let me guess, it got boring. And he said, yeah. You just go down and take your money, but you know, I got money. That's not the issue. There's juice in betting. And believe me, I did betting during bowl games. I bet on my own team of Ohio State. Back then we were dominant. We had, you remember a guy named Clint Schleister, quarterback? Schleister.
I do not. I can't say that I did.
He got thrown out of the NFL for betting. He had a Vegas connection. He was kind of like a young Pete Rose. Pete Rose was the baseball, but at the end of a career, what Art Schleister was at the beginning of his career. Therefore, he had no career.
Right.
But
tragic. But
John Brockington, I went to a Rose Bowl in 1971. It was a lot of fun. I actually, at Marineland of the Pacific, I bumped into Jim Plunkett.
Did you really?
I bumped into him and one of his linebacker friends. I'm telling you, 6'4", 240, 250, Rick Shithouse. And he made Plunkett look small. And Plunkett made me look small. I'm 6'0", 180. Back then I was 6'0", 170. 68, 165, you know, right in there. And Plunkett was about 6'2" and 200, 205. Big kid. I said, hey, have a good game, Jim. And he didn't know I was from Ohio. He said, all right, thanks, buddy. And they beat my Ohio State team, and it was It was kind of brutal.
You know, I
But
watched.
that
Just speaking of that, I watched a really
71.
I watched a really interesting video. I just kind of a random thing. It was mind numbing. Not too long ago on former baseball players that were in the minor leagues who ultimately became very famous in other areas of entertainment, and but they were solid baseball guys. One of them was John Elway.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So
Well, John Elway is now destroying the Denver Broncos.
yes, he is.
He's the general manager.
I know.
He's responsible for bringing in Russell Wilson and paying him a fortune.
Yes.
Are you aware of the ancillary effect? When you bring in a very high paid fellow, you can't pay much of anybody else.
Well, that's the NFL. That's what they're. That's how.
Yeah, but there are a number of teams that don't have that one big marquee player. All right, Ron, I gotta go.
Hey, it was really awesome to see you again, sir. It's been about 6 weeks since we did a show, so I'm glad we got to do one. Let's do something again in the new. Before Thanksgiving. Before Thanksgiving.
Oh yeah.
Thanksgiving's a month away. It's insane.
The year is almost over.
I know. It's gonna be crazy nuts. See what happens.
I don't like this. I don't like these passage of years.
Well, they seem to go faster the older we get. So, well, hey, listen, I'm gonna cut the video off here. Jim, hold on one quick second. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Appreciate you, and follow Jim's work at Patriot at the golden-jackass.com. And if you are not subscribed to his newsletter, you are absolutely missing out. So I cannot.
Because you are, Ron, and you know what you're talking about.
Exactly. I cannot in stronger terms suggest it. So thanks, everybody. And we will let you get on with your day, evening, wherever you are and whatever time it is. And look forward to seeing you again next time. So thanks again. Have a good night, everybody.